This is Mike Brown of Brainzooming, and always an interesting moment when you get a chance to meet someone that you've only known through Twitter, and now you're meeting them in person. And that's Melanie Sklarz. I'm in Cleveland, and she is Dose of Creativity on Twitter. And Melanie, it's great to meet you and see you in person.
So wonderful to see you, Mike. It's just, I know we've talked about for years meeting together in person, and so this has just been an amazing experience. I'm so glad we've been able to connect like this.
Just all kinds of creativity. So I wanted Melanie to talk about a project that she does every June, which is 30 days of creativity, 30 days of inspiration with new projects. Melanie, how long have you done that, and where did the idea come from?
This is actually my third year doing 30 Days of Creativity. I actually found out about it on Twitter. There's a handle called @CreateStuff that sponsors it every year. I believe it's some sort of agency up in Minneapolis or Minnesota area that does it. And so the first year that I did just a random slew of projects every day. So I really tried to focus on using something that influenced me throughout the day. So if I got a piece of junk mail, I turned it into art, or if I went somewhere, I took a picture. Even if I was working in the office, I used paper clips to create a bracelet. So I tried to find a really innovative approach. So then the second year came around, and I realized that after that first year, I had so much stuff that I had created. So the second year, I decided to turn it more into a public art program. So I would create the stuff, but I would use leave behinds to inspire other people. So my theme was the word create. So I did all these types of guerrilla art around the word create, from creating stickers that I left at bus stops and then documented through photography, or even making some sort of mobile that I put out in the forest, hoping that someone would be inspired about it if they just sort of stumbled upon it when they were hiking. And so the third year, after I'd done those two projects, I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. And I realized that I had this half-used sketchbook that I'd done some random sketchbook collages in. And so I decided that every day I would do a collage using whatever materials that I had at hand. Well, as I found out as I went through the 30 days, which is always a tough thing, when you get to like day 12, 13, 15, you get that hump, you're like, oh, do I think I can create any more? And you really can. The momentum's there, and if you just get into that rhythm, you get very inspired. So I found that by the end of the project, I'd simplified all the collages that I made down to 3 essential pieces. So I had an image and then maybe 2 different colored pieces of paper. And so what that project really taught me was this act of simplification. And then creativity was this act of really bringing it down to the bare bones. And this latest project that I did with 30 Days of Creativity really inspired me around the number 3 and looking at threes. And so that became a really powerful inspiration for me for the rest of the summer, because the program goes from the 1st of June every year to obviously June 30th of every year.
Well, that's interesting. So we're doing this in September, so we're about 3 months out. When do you start thinking about 2014? May 25th or?
Pretty much, Mike. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It sneaks up every year, although I know it's going to happen. And I think that's the beauty of it, because I really am spontaneous and creative, and it really revolves around what's happening in my life, or what influences, or even what's happening in my own creativity, or what I want to explore. So I'm sure that I'm always thinking about it throughout the year,
Yeah.
What my project is going to be.
Spontaneity is good. Spontaneity is creativity. So you said you had a conversation about it recently, and you had some new revelations. Anything else you want to share about what you've learned from doing this project for 3 years?
I've really learned is that, creativity takes discipline and it takes time. And there's this myth that, you get this wonderful creative idea, and that's how creativity happens. But I really believe that from doing this project and really devoting myself to it, that creativity takes time and patience. And it was, giving the example of the third one that it was through this everyday process that I was able to pare it down into these 3 elements. But I probably would have not have done that initially. It was working through this entire process that I came down to really simplifying it.
Very good. So if somebody wants to go back and look at some of the previous 30 days of creativity, where do they go?
That's a great question. I actually have a Tumblr account set up for that. And like Mike mentioned earlier, similar to my Twitter handle, it's DOSE, D-O-S-E, of creativity, and it's CRE8 Ivity, so IVITY.tumblr.com.
Very good. And we'll put that link in so you won't have to remember it.
I know, I had a hard time. I hope I remembered it correctly. We'll see when
Send me a link to it and we'll put that in.
That would be perfect.
Melanie
Thanks.
Sklarz, it has been delightful to meet you. Thank you so much for being part of Brainzooming.com.
Likewise here, Mike.